Tristin, I'm alcoholic. Thanks for the introduction, Lynn, and appreciate the invitation here. And it's always something good whenever you get asked to do a speaker meeting or anything doing with AA. So I'm real grateful to be here. And so sobriety date is January 23rd, 2023. So I just picked up 2 years a week or so ago, and it's been quite a journey for me. It's a miracle I'm here today by the grace of God, obviously here and in recovery and doing this thing. I never thought this was possible for me, let alone 2 years. I mean, I couldn't even go 2 days. Battling this thing for years. I could never get a grip on it. I'd make promises to myself, I'm never going to do this again, and this is where it stops. And, through my story, you'll see the unmanageability and the powerlessness. And I just hope that the message comes across smooth. And, if just one person gets something out of it, that's all I'm here for. That's it. I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor, so on and so on. I'm from Rockingham, North Carolina. So, big town of Rockingham. Looking back on active addiction, I always thought that Rockingham was the problem, and it wasn't until I got educated on this disease and Alcoholics Anonymous and the big book that I realized that I was the problem. And it was, I think that's what I took off when I realized that, the issue was from within. And, I could deal with that. I could address that. I just could not stop using, So once I got the treatment, got educated, it became, I guess that's when the light went off or the switch went off, when I finally realized that, hey, I got direction on which way to go to try to beat this thing. And, growing up, was raised by a single mom. Father wasn't around. I got an older brother. He's 10 years older than me, so that brother relationship wasn't quite there. But growing up, we moved around a lot because I was adopted when I was, maybe 2 or 3. And he was in the Navy, so we bounced around Jacksonville, Florida, Norfolk, Virginia, things like that. And so early on in childhood, I didn't really... I didn't have a lot of friends. I couldn't make friends easily because I moved around a lot and I just was uncomfortable, never really got a chance to get to know people because, I'd be there for a little bit and then I'd be gone. But I'd say around the age of 9 or 10, after moving around a little bit, due to that, we settled back down in Rockingham, and that's when everything started for me. So I settled down, finally got to get to know some kids and, got some friends and got into sports and, did all the things that kids would do. And I didn't have no crazy, it wasn't nothing real bad in the home. My mom did what she could do. We always had what we needed to have. We didn't have too much extra, but we had everything we needed. And, so I had a lot of respect for my mom. She raised me. I loved her to death. And, that's just how the relationship was. I'm a mama's boy, and, that was just the way it was. Got into sports a lot, was real heavy in it, and loved it, baseball, football, basketball. And it's pretty much, all I did, and go to school. I was never really good at school. It just wasn't appealing to me. I don't know what it was. I remember skipping school early. We'd leave because the school was right by neighborhoods, and I'd go to some kid's house, and this was, 10, 11 years old. And, we'd get into stuff, we'd break windows, and just the behavior patterns were there, early on. And, looking back on it now, I can see it. Because I didn't have any reason to do any of these things. Maybe it was to fit in. I'm not really quite sure. But I just always found a way to get into stuff. Let's put it that way. And that went on for a long time. Rockingham Junior High, playing sports, doing good. Grades are so-so. Get into it with some kids that are a little bit older and that are experimenting with drugs and alcohol. So, I fall in and I start doing those things. Not regularly, but maybe once or twice a month. And I started finding ways to get away from my friends that were doing good in school and playing sports and striving to do the right thing. And I started veering in the other direction with the kids that were doing the wrong thing. And so it didn't take long to surround myself fully with people like that. So now I'm finding ways, every weekend I'm trying to go stay at somebody's house that are doing those things, using. And I did it, so that went on all through junior high, but I still was able to manage my grades in sports and, get through it and stuff like that. And then I get to Richmond Senior High, so that's high school, that'd be 10th grade. And start driving and stuff, and things got worse real quick. That's all I'm around at this point. All those old friends that were continuing to do the right thing, that were actually going to school and cared about their grades and had dreams of going to college and stuff like that. That never really crossed my mind. It just didn't seem like it was in the, in my future. So, that was just one thing, and then, one thing led to another, and then on the way to school one morning, we got into a head-on collision, and the guy that hit us passed away. It was me and my friend, and we got banged up pretty bad. The driver of my vehicle was he got his foot crushed and broke his hand, and like I said, the other gentleman had passed away. And I think that's when I first got introduced to opiates, and that was pretty much the beginning of a long ride for me. So I was still young, and I didn't really know too much about it. I wasn't really, I was probably 14, 15 years old, so I didn't know anything about it. I just knew whatever I was taking I liked, and I wanted it, and I had no more. So I ran out, and I remember just looking back on it that I was wanting to find those things, and I wanted to do them again, and I knew I would. Whenever I was determined to do something, and that's still to this day, good or bad, I usually find a way to make it happen, or if I really give it up my all, I can usually accomplish a lot of things, whether good or bad. And I find that true today, because it didn't take long, and spiraling out of control. Got a couple injuries in high school, so it kind of derailed the sports thing, and I think that's when everything started to kind of go downhill for me. I didn't have sports anymore, and school was school. I didn't really. It was just somewhere to hang out, and what we're doing afterwards for me. It was never nothing like, hey, I got to do this. I don't ever remember bringing any books home. There was no homework, and I didn't really have. I didn't have any kind of authority at home. Pretty much just did what I wanted to do, and that's, I just did what I wanted to do, and homework wasn't one of them. So, that went on all through high school and, 11th grade, and just drinking and smoking before school at this point every day. I think I did that 11th grade and 12th grade. So I'm using daily at this point. And, looking back now, compared to what I would end up going through, it was still fun to me, and as I continued on, getting into stuff after school, and I never had any trouble with the law until later on in life, but it was still fun, and, I just continued to do it, and I surrounded myself with people that were doing the same thing, and that's just the way it went for me during high school. And barely got through 11th grade, had to end up doing some summer school to go into 12th just to graduate, and, a little suspended a few times. I think taking the suggestions from my sponsor was the first time I've ever listened to somebody and did what they've asked me or did what they thought I should do, and it actually worked out for me. But yeah, so I kind of disregarded all rules growing up. I was just a bad kid. There ain't no other way to put it. I was a bad kid, and I don't blame it on anybody or anything like that. I just rode that route, and that's the way I went. So 12th grade, still the same thing, man. Using every day, before school, after school. Kind of come home when I want to. I barely graduate high school, barely. Other kids are their senior year, their last semester. They're doing half days and they're doing this. I had to have all mine, all 8 of them. So I was pressed, man. So. Yeah, I got through it though. I think they just wanted to get me out of there. Honestly, I don't think they really wanted me to stick around another year. But yeah, they got me out of there. I'd say that. So, other than I graduated, yeah, they let me graduate. But was not ready for the real world at all when I graduated high school. No kind of preparation, no kind of dreams or aspirations. I just went to work. So my first job was actually in Aberdeen. It was a Par 3 car wash, and there was a whole bunch of us from Rockingham that were working there at the time, and we'd carpool up and down, and all of us were on the same type of deal, inactive addiction. So that's what we did before, during, after, and my life had just become overcome by this thing at this point, and it's really all I knew, and it seemed so normal to me, and I just thought that I'm still kind of young, and this is life, you know what I mean? So, boy, was I wrong about that. So I continued to do these things. Mind you, I was stealing a lot in people's cars, going through the car wash, and that carried on through any real job I had, except for the one I got now. Pretty much stole from everybody that I've worked for. Jobs never ended well. I've never left a job on good terms in my entire life. And, it was just a pattern over and over. And like I said, I always resented Rockingham because that's what I blamed. It was the place. It's this place. There ain't nothing here. Blah, blah, blah. So I tried to get out and move around. I've been to Florida all the way up to Buffalo, New York, and they all ended the same. I took myself with me, and I'd get up there at Gainesville, Florida, Buffalo, New York, Warrenton, Virginia, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It don't matter. It always ended the same for me. It was either getting locked up or getting kicked out of wherever I was, because I was usually trying to mooch off somebody. Could not hold a job for nothing. I just could not keep it together at all. And my life was just, it was terrible. It was terrible, and I don't really remember feeling the pain though, like I did this last time before I came in. And I don't know if it was just I just ain't been beat bad enough. Back then I was still in my early 20s. Maybe I just wasn't beat down bad enough, and I just put myself through this type of deal for years, man. But then I ended up, after trying to get away from the problem, which was Rockingham. Each time I ended up coming back. And it would gradually get worse, and, other drugs were involved. Pretty much done everything you can name. Yeah, and I don't think I've ever tried something once, whether I liked it or not. I've probably tried it twice. And that's just the way it was, man. So it didn't really matter to me. It was a type of lifestyle that I lived, and I think that was a high in itself for me. I think that I just like living like that. And like I said, I was still in my early 20s, so this is before the being wore down mentally finally kicked in, because it tore me down pretty bad. I mean, it took like 15 years after that, but it did it did beat me pretty bad to where I was just, had to change something. But yeah, I get back and I have my first son, which he's 17 today, or about to be 17 in April. And I make a vow, hey, I'm about to. This is what's going to get me on the right track. I got a kid coming. I'm 24 years old, and and I really did want to be a good father. That's what I wanted. I don't think I wanted anything more than that. And that didn't work. That didn't work at all. I just couldn't. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. And honestly, I just got to the point where I just was okay with it, and I was going to die like this, right? And so that was tough. And then, one day it was just not fun anymore. Got to have it when you get up. Can't stop thinking about it. Either thinking about it on the way to get it. You feel terrible. Just all the things that the book talks about, was true in my life. I feel like the book was specifically written about me sometimes when I read it. But yeah, I just, being a father wasn't enough. Being a son wasn't enough. I just couldn't get my feet up under me. I couldn't do it at all. Didn't know which way to turn. I've never really, growing up, I was never, I always believed in God, but I was never growing up in a church, or never really any sense of direction in that area in my life. But I do remember looking back on, prior girlfriends when I was younger, and some of my friends before that were involved in church, and I just feel like, I had an opportunity to go the right way, but I chose to go the other way, or just didn't know no better. But either way, there was always opportunity to do the right thing, which I failed every time. And so, it continued on, and I think my son was 2 years old, and I had hit, I think that was when the pain started getting real bad. This was around like 2010, and I remember calling some hotline or something, I don't remember what it was. It wasn't like a suicide hotline or nothing. It was like a Alcoholics Anonymous hotline or something. And they got me to the first available place in the area, and this was 2010, which was Samaritan Colony. And so, all right, sign me up. So I went and ended up doing the 28 days, but I was sick the entire time. Like, I was sick when I got there. I was sick when I graduated the 28-day program, and even a couple weeks after the fact, because my use was so it was so high, and so I didn't retain any information. Only thing I really got out of that 28 days was God was involved in the 12 steps. That's what I remember getting out of it, and that's about it. I didn't work any steps when I got out. I didn't get a sponsor when I got out. I think I went to meetings for probably a week or two. So I ended up not using for about, 40 days, 45 days, something like that, a little over a month. And when they say it's progressive and it gets worse, I find that true today. And it did. It got worse. And so I started using different things and, just experimenting with stuff, which ultimately landed me in prison. In 2015, I was sentenced to 59 months in federal prison. And, I've been locked up. I had a couple DUIs when I was 19. I had like 2 back-to-back, and I'd been in jail, county jail, quite a bit, more than I can count. But I always had a bail, how much does it cost to get out? Not this time. The feds come pick you up and you're under no bail, and you're just getting ready to be shipped to wherever you're going. And that kind of woke me up a little bit, you know. It got my attention for sure. So, you know, I ride it out, and they hold me in Burlington in Alamance County for about 10 months awaiting trial. And I ended up getting the 59 months, you know. So they shipped me to Fort Dix, New Jersey. You know, you got like a radius you can get shipped to, and I think that was the furthest point of the radius. So, needless to say, I didn't get many visits, you know. Yeah, so I get up there, man, and, you know, I'm from North Carolina. I'm a country boy, and ain't many people from the country up there. You know, so, you know, a lot of people from New York and, you know, just everybody up there, you know. So I get up there and, you know, I stick out like a sore thumb, and I get off the bus, and mind you, they didn't tell me that it's the biggest prison in the United States. So it's 2,500 on one side and 25 on the other side. And I just remember getting off the bus, and when I got off, I looked around, and I didn't see no cops. It didn't look like the prison on TV, you know, where you always see a cop or a CO or something. It was just free for all, man. It was just inmates everywhere. You know, I didn't know nobody, and I was scared. I ain't gonna lie, I was scared. So I stuck to myself and tried to make the best of it as I could, and I made I said, hey, I'm gonna try to learn something from this, because I really don't want to have to do this again. And you know, I'm just trying to get through them days. And I got introduced to this program, which I kind of put together with you know, the problem centering in your mind. This was a behavioral program, and I qualified for it because my information showed that I struggled with addiction, you know, and it also offered a year off your sentence, so that's really why I did it. But so they give you a year off, and you got to do this intense 9-month program, and it was very intense, but it was very worth it. So it's how to challenge like your irrational thoughts. You know, if something just pops in your head, you don't react to it. You kind of send it through a filter and pause and when agitated, or pause and think about it before you act. And so I took a lot from it. I got the year off, so I ended up, you know, doing a little over 3 years. And when I got out, right before I got out, so you know, never met my father. Didn't know who he was. He contacts me while I'm in there, a month before I get out. And, hey man, I'm your dad, and I want you to come down to the beach. I said, all right, let's go. Because I didn't want to go back to Rockingham. You know, Rockingham was the problem. So, yeah, I mean, that was just like, this is a blessing from God, right? So, so first time I met my father, he picked me up from the halfway house in the federal halfway house in Raleigh. After I did like 4 months there, and back into the world on the way to the beach. That was the most awkward car ride. I mean, because I was 34 years old, man, you know, and I really want to be like, where you been? You know what I'm saying? But I mean, what are you supposed to say? Like, because I'm trying to get away and do the right thing, but it was very awkward, you know, as it should have been. Like, the relationship was weird, and it is to this day. It's still very weird, because it's like not talked about. You know what I mean? But there's so many like unanswered questions. But he's just he's a character. But yeah. So I'm down. We're riding, and he's been paid off all my tickets and fines to the DMV, and so I'm down for that. Whatever you're doing, I'm down for that. I'll put all of those stuff to the side. Let's ride. So we did, and got an apartment down there, and I guess he had a little bit of money because it was a nice place. In the middle of Myrtle. right there. I don't know if anybody knows where Market Commons is, but it's, right there in Market Commons, Myrtle Beach. And, so it was nice. I was out of Rockingham, got me a job, doing good. I'm on federal parole, so I got 3 years hanging over my head. So if I don't pass drug tests or get in any kind of trouble, then, they said they'll come get you, and I believe them, so I wasn't trying to mess with that. So about a year in, so I'm not doing any drugs, I'm just drinking. So, in my mind at this time, so just drinking. So yeah, I always thought of myself somebody who didn't like alcohol. Turns out I do. So I'm drinking a lot, drinking every day, drinking with him. I think whatever he's got going on, but he drinks a lot too. So we're drinking a lot. I'm going to work, and I've become a bartender. So I'm drinking a whole lot, and that's what I did at the beach. Money was real good. I was stealing from them as well. So I'm drinking, I'm stealing, but I ain't doing no drugs. I'm able to keep a little money in my pocket. So in my eyes at the time, and rightfully so, because I'd been doing bad, and this wasn't it, right? But little did I know, I am an alcoholic. I know that now. So that continues on, and I did, somehow I got off the 3-year probation and made it off clean. And, the whole time, I'm drinking the entire 3 years, probably, probably every day, so, but I get off the probation, and I never made any reservations to do anything related to drugs while I was doing it, but I guess I never talked about it to myself, but somebody did, because as soon as I got off the 3 years, I was off. That was it. I was off to the races again, doing more than drinking, still drinking. So everything's back incorporated. Only thing different this time is I got a little bit of money. So I got a license. So I'm in the scene. I'm in Myrtle Beach, and I'm coming back and forth to Rockingham to see my son. That was a regular thing. He would come down there, and I thought my relationship with my father was weird. Their relationship was even weirder. But so that it just carried on, man. And really, what I'm getting at is, that's just what I did. Without thinking, it was automatic to me. Using some kind of substance was what my body was used to, and it's just how I coped. Whether I was happy, whether I was sad, it didn't matter if it was a celebration, if it was a death. It was just endless, use of something. And and now we're talking about 2019, and then COVID's about to hit. It's 2020. Everything shuts down, and I had met, which is my fiance now, I'd met Zoe. We were actually bartending together, and so I meet her, and we have a little girl, and so we get a place, and she just knows, the bartender guy that drinks a little bit. That's all she really knew. That's all I let her see, and because I was good at hiding what I needed to hide. I've always been pretty good at that, I think. And so she, as my disease or substance abuse got stronger and stronger, she started to see who I was, for real, whenever I was in the middle of that thing. And she didn't stick around long. So she ups and moves, and she's from Virginia. So she takes my little girl. My little girl was 1 then, and are not even But takes her, moves back in with her mom up there, and she didn't stick around long. And rightfully so. I mean, because just not somebody fun to be around, I guess, especially if you're not doing those things. You know what I mean? You probably just don't want to surround yourself with people that are doing them, obviously. But yeah, so she leaves and takes my little girl, and I stick it out for a little bit and start to lose the job. The money starts going away a little bit, and I tried to come back to Rockingham. I had a buddy who was trying to get me to go back to Samaritan Colony at the time, and I told him I would, man. I would. Come pick me up, So I got a ride back to Rockingham. Went to detox. I was in the waiting chair at detox, and that thing folds up, and you just waiting to get back to the back, and I'm waiting. I'm like, damn, 12 hours done went by, you know what I mean? So I end up leaving detox. I don't need this. I've been here 12 hours, and I end up not doing what I told him I would do, which was going to the treatment center. So I talked Zoe into coming to get me from Virginia, and told her I ain't using no more. I'm clean, So she does, and so we go back up there. So I'm in about 30 minutes from DC. So I find a job real quick, bartending up there, and it was a short period of time, man, 6 months maybe, and ended up getting locked up there, and she put me on a train back down to Rockingham. So I rode the Amtrak back down to Rockingham, and drinking all the way down here on it, and by this time my mom had passed away. My brother was in prison. All my close family was either, dead or in prison, or not willing to open their door for me. So I didn't really have anywhere to go. But I knew Samaritan Colony was there. So, that's what got me there, being, and plus I was mentally exhausted at this point. It was way beyond not fun. It was devastating, because all I wanted to do once again was be a father, right? I wanted to be a father. And I think I centered my life on that, but I didn't really know how to become that. I didn't know how to work on myself. I always skipped that process. I always thought, I didn't know that I was the problem. Even after all that, even after jail, prison, and everything in my life, I never really knew or thought to think that I was the issue. So, I get to Samaritan, and I'm grateful to be there. I got somewhere to sleep. I got some food, and so my ears are open this time. I'm listening, and they would say things to me like, pay attention, you're gonna miss it. And I just look back on it now, and I'm so grateful for that place, because, I learned a lot there in that 28 days, man, especially those last 2 weeks, and we did some step work, and we're reading, and I'm praying, and, it's just, I'm trying to give all these problems and all these issues up to God, and, trying not to burden myself, and, lighten the load of just anxiety and worry and fear, so just full of fear. And so it started working out for me when I was in there. I just remember stuff making sense. I remember going through the book, and I remember thinking, all right, cool. And then the guys would come in and speak, and I remember wanting what they had, and it started looking attainable at this point. And I actually bought in a little bit to the program at this point, not fully, but I was to the point to where I didn't have any more options. So finishing the treatment and going to the recovery home sounded like a real good idea, and so I ended up doing that. But there, in my last week in Samaritan Colony, a guy I knew walked in. I didn't recognize him, and he recognized me though, because I still looked the same. I was still, fresh off the streets and coming off of active addiction. And he goes, "Tristin, is that you?" I said, "What's up, man?" And it was my sponsor. That's my sponsor today. But I knew this guy, man, and I knew him pretty good. And to see who that guy was right there in front of me, at Samaritan Colony, and then seeing him, what he looked like and how he acted 20 years ago, I think that's when the identification kicked in and enabled me to really say, yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. You know what I mean? So I made plans right then. I said, man, if it works out, I'd like for you to sponsor me whenever I get out of here, because I'm gonna go to the recovery home up here, and you live up here, and it'll be nice, And God seen it fit to do those things for me, man, and that was probably the best thing that happened to me, being able to work with him, and me calling with problems, and him, asking me, did I pray? And I'm like, no, I didn't pray. And then calling with another problem, and he asked me, did I pray? And I say, no, I didn't pray. And then I started praying, and I started having less problems, So, so I'm catching on to these things, I'm catching on. I'm saying, all right, well then I'll just, prayer works, So, so I'm praying all the time now, and I get out, and I still was able to keep my license somehow. I don't know how, but they were intact. Oh, my dad. Hey, my dad did that. Yeah. So yeah, he did that. Yeah. About it, but yeah. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, I got my license, and they lined me up with a job. Just got a truck. So I'm in the recovery home, and I'm out of there, I don't know, 3 days. Shoot, got a truck Monday morning, went to work, and it was a blessing. It was really a blessing, man. And just doors are opening up, God's working in my life, and so now my goal is I got to get Zoe, and I got to get my daughter back down here, because I'm quite sure I'm not leaving Moore County at this point, because God's working in my life, and I ain't trying to mess this thing up. I knew that, and she's seen, after a few months went by, and I guess she's seen something enough to where she trusted me enough to take the chance to move down here, and that's what happened, man. So relationships restored, family put back together. I'm still in the in the process of working on other relationships with some kids, and it's just a good deal for me today. It's a blessing. I truly feel like a miracle, because I didn't think that this was possible. When I picked up 90 days, man, it seemed like such a long time for me. And it seemed like such a big deal and such a milestone for me to hit those 90 days. Because like I said, I can't do this on my own. I can't. So when I realize these things, man, I just tap into that power. I don't leave the house in the morning unless I'm prayed up. Pretty self-aware of who I am when I'm not centered with God, and I'm aware of who I am when I am with, and needless to say, I choose to turn my life over to God every day, and one day at a time, because credit is due, this is not on my own accord, but yeah, so man, I've I get through the steps, finish the 90 and 90, start sponsoring men, get my first sponsor. 6 months had went by. God blessed me with a place to live, and I think that was the first time that, I don't know if that was a spiritual experience or whatever, but that was a time that I felt the presence of God whenever, when the guys that I worked for offered me to live in one of his houses. Because, I'm kind of low on money, living in the halfway house, but I got plans to move. U-Hauls ain't cheap. So I'm trying to move it from Virginia, right? And I'm trying to save up money for the first month's rent, and then rent on top of that. And rent in Moore County ain't cheap. So, but it all worked out, man, by the grace of God. God has been opening up doors for me at every turn. I am truly blessed, and I feel like I'm favored, at this point. But yeah, so move into a house, and I moved out of the recovery home 6 months in, and the biggest deal for me is, I've had the privilege to sponsor some guys, and see at first, I was just trying to stay clean. I was trying to stay sober. I didn't want to use, and the book told me I need to work with others, so that's what I did. But then gradually, as time went by, it became more than that. It became, this sponsee making his relationship with his wife better. This sponsee getting his license, and just seeing these men, build up. And yeah, it's a big deal for me, man. So I'm real high on trying to sponsor guys. I know that's what works for me. I don't usually take away from the things that I do every morning, and I got a routine and I stick by it because I'm scared to death to take something out of it, and that's just the God's honest truth. So I've been doing that same routine for over 2 years now, and been able to stack on some days, and been able to do cool stuff like this, and go down to the colony and speak, and go to the prison and speak, and reading the book with men, and I've been able to see this thing work, and I still can't believe it works, really, but it does. It works if you work it. And when people used to say that to me, I was just, hell, man. You know what I mean? Like, this can't be it. Like, this is what this is the answer. And it's just mind blowing that it is. So so I try to work the steps as much as on a daily basis and to the best of my ability. Do I do it all the time? No. I do fail. But I know, like I said, I know who I am, and I don't have the luxury of telling lies. I can't do those types of things because that'll open up the door for other things for me, and I know that. I have to keep all that stuff away from me, man. I try to not get angry as much. I try to tell the truth. So whenever I do things, and I try to do it as if somebody was going to ask me if I've done it, because I know I got to tell them the truth whenever they ask me. So I'm accountable today. I'm dependable. I feel like, my life is, can't even really put a number on it, but it's tremendously better. I got a sense of peace about me, some serenity, all the things that the book talks about. The promises come true, and, I'm just grateful to be here, man. And I appreciate y'all having me. That's all I got, man.